most of those who are, I guess, assumed to be on the left, they mostly focus on policy or reform. Why don't they often um, prioritize, systemic issues that relate from our founding documents, things like the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, and one document that's not referred to very often called the Doctrine of Discovery. Why don't they focus on the white supremacy embedded in the Constitution or in the Declaration of Independence or the Doctrine of Discovery? These things that basically create a lot of our systemic issues. We're focused on a lot of policy and reform, but we don't really tend to get to the root of all these causes. We can pick any topic. Probably any of them can result from, example, the Doctrine of Discovery. I think I consider as a root of all of our systemic problems. And as a left, I consider myself as part of the left, but we focus on policy and reform, and basically I kind of see these as band-aids rather than addressing the root of these issues.
Well, what do you imagine would happen if we well, what do you imagine would happen if we I don't know, changed the doctrine of discovery?
Well, I don't think we can change the Doctrine of Discovery because it was issued by the church, right?
What?
So I
Right.
mean, it's not
And
something that
it's
the U.S. government can change, but we can address it, right? Um, so let's
I have
say
an answer.
we're fighting for
hold on,
many
Matt.
issues
Matt
in
has
the
Matt
country
has an
separately.
Matt has an answer.
Like, my answer would be that
Okay.
this is not about those sort of founding things. This is preceded those, actually. Those sort of codified a state of affairs that already sort of existed with regards to like plantation slavery, I think you're alluding to. And this is more about policy. Like, if you look at how race and gender were constructed, it was colonial policy saying, we're going to a white woman, any sort of fruits of her labor will go to the man of the house, but a black woman, that will be taxed by the state. Like, these sorts of policies are actually what formed these sort of race and gender inequalities, I think. So I think it's vital to focus on the policy. I think your point is well taken, that we should be clear-eyed about what these documents and myths mean, but fundamentally this stuff was formed by policy.
Well, true, I agree. Let's say like going back to something simple as the 14th, 15th Amendment and things with racial injustice and police brutality and all that. With the 14th, 15th Amendments, of course, the rights that they guarantee. But regardless of those rights, we're still having to make up new policy that protects people's right to vote or protects people from police.
Well,
Rather, that shouldn't those policies or those laws protect people?
well, the 14th and
fundamentally.
15th Amendment were written in such a way that there was an opportunity for some of these, for certain policies to maintain, right? Like you can't do it based upon, you can't disenfranchise someone based upon race, but it didn't really, it left the door open for proxies for race. And so we've got to correct those. I mean, because frankly, yes, even in, those were compromises in those Reconstruction era amendments. They were compromises. And I mean, look, all men are created equal, right? I mean, it was like, it turns out that how you implement that concept in policy is pretty important. Like who you deem to be men and what in terms of being equal. I mean, I think, like, look, it never hurts to have a more of a historical context for these things. But I mean, to go back, first of all, it's also just not viable necessarily to go in and amend the 15th Amendment so that it's more specific. But you do it through policy. I mean, but I do think a historical basis of it is okay. Appreciate the call.
All right, if you might, can I just say one last thing? You don't have to answer this question, but more of like a rhetorical question.
Sure.
Thank you. So while Native Americans, I would consider as first formers resistance to capitalism and settler colonialism, their actions paved the road for progressivism and social issues, class struggle. But we now often dismiss that, and we hardly talk about that. So mainly I'm bringing this up as a form of discussion on the left. We hardly talk about these things, especially in Native resistance, because their problems are our problems. But I appreciate you all. Thanks for taking my call.
All right, thanks for the call. Interesting perspective on that. And
Yeah.
I'm going to give you some thought.
I'd echo that. I mean, I think Dakota Access Pipeline, a lot of the things you see down to the legislation to make it okay to hit people with cars, started there. And yeah, I think that's a good point.
Folks, there's more of what you've just saw where that came from. That's if you hit the subscribe and like button. Thank you. Really, thank you.